Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Prospect Central 101. My name is Chris Robbins, and today we're going to be discussing the TJ Hockenson to the Detroit Lions pick. So, for those of you guys who follow the channel, who checked out some of our other breakdowns, um, you guys probably know by now that I am a Lions fan, and so I'm really going to take this time to kind of just talk about the way that I see TJ fitting the Lions. For those of you guys who are looking for more of a film breakdown or film session or analysis, that type of thing, a little bit more of an unbiased kind of look into what TJ can do. We already have a film breakdown up on him as well. So I will try and put that in the comments or the attachments screen thing, whatever. And you guys can go ahead and check that out as well. But this one is just going to be a little bit shorter and trying to pump up TJ Hockenson a little bit because I am personally thrilled about him becoming a Detroit Lion. He's one of my favorite players in the class. In fact, I will actually spoil my big board a little bit here. And he was number 6, right behind Devin Bush, and my number 1 offensive player in the entire class. So I'm a huge fan of what TJ Hockenson can bring to any team, but now you know where he's going, the Lions specifically, as early as next year. So I'm going to have the highlights playing in the background here while I talk about some possible fits and some things that Bob Quinn said today and some of the other lead up to this process and how we got to this point. So also that's supposed to be 38, not 83. But anyway, so there are a couple of things that really stood out to me about TJ and why I am a huge fan of him coming to the Lions next season. First thing that you guys are going to notice is the hands. The guy is an incredibly good catcher of the football with the hands. Very technically sound, does a really nice job of being a consistent hands catcher. I've been doing a lot of these film sessions on receivers this year, and that's probably the number one thing that I've been looking for outside of motor, and maybe including route running, from the tight end position or the receiver position his hands. And that also applies to tight ends who are going to have to catch the football, and especially in Detroit, you're going to see TJ be a top consistent target for us as early as in 2019. Someone who's going to have reliable hands, going to be catching the ball from Matthew Stafford, one of the higher velocity quarterbacks in the class, or in the league, rather. Um, and TJ is going to be able to do that for you. He has really consistent, strong, reliable hands. Does a great job of being consistent with that aspect of his game. And overall, one of the biggest positives to his game, which is incredibly important. In fact, Pro Football Focus did a statistical check on him, and out of 75 catchable passes that he received in his collegiate career, only 2 of them were receiver error. Whether that be a drop, whether that be some ball that they thought he could have caught in the catch radius he didn't attempt to catch, maybe an issue in terms of him underrunning a route or coming back, some kind of route issue. 2 of the balls were considered catchable in terms of quarterback error that he did not catch. So that's a very, very high percentage. I'm not great at math, but that's over 95% catch rate, which is really, really good on that end. So that's the first thing that I really, and that's the one thing that Lions fans are going to be most picky about. And that's the one thing that really ran Eric Ebron out of town, and even to some degree Brandon Pettigrew, was the drop issues and people not being able to catch Matthew Stafford's passes. TJ Hockenson should not, and I believe will not, have that issue immediately. So that's one positive. Next positive I see from him, and you see on that play, is his ability to stretch the field. He's not Noah Fant in terms of 99 percentile athleticism, passes the QIB, and wide receivers. He's not going to be like that elite slot type of go 90-yard type of guy, but he's a guy who's going to be able to seam bust. And frankly, that was my one huge complaint with the Lions offense last year. And we saw it affect the passing game way too often. And especially a guy like Theo Riddick is going to benefit huge from this. Because what really is going to end up happening, I'm already predicting this to happen, is what's going to end up taking place is you're going to see TJ Hockenson attack these seams, run down the middle of the field between the hashes, and what's going to occur is he's going to draw a linebacker, and you see on this play here, he is always going to draw attention. You're always going to need to cover him. He is a consistent, reliable threat anywhere on the field, whether that be in the red zone, whether that be between the 20s, wherever on the field you need to put him, he will make a play. He's not someone who can go unguarded like our tight ends last year. There were several plays last year. I'm going to specifically mention the Jets game. There were several plays last year, specifically in the Jets game, where opposing defenses willingly, blatantly, intentionally left Lions tight ends unguarded. Nobody on them. Let him run straight down the field, wide open daylight, and Stafford didn't either have the time or they weren't the read to where they weren't targeted. And it was great playing by the defenses to recognize this, first off. Uh, but it was a serious issue because it really restricted our offense to having to hit the slot, having to hit the outside X and Z with Kenny G, and put a lot of stress on Kenny Galladay to make plays, especially late in the year when Marvin went down, when Kerryon went down. We didn't really have that tight end threat with Luke Wilson that first off we were hoping for, but second off that we needed. And TJ Hockenson is going to be able to draw that coverage, most importantly, away from the running back, first off, which will really help Kerryon in the passing game. But also away from the slot receiver. He'll draw coverage from Amendola. And probably the biggest impact in terms of not necessarily practicality, but in terms of bonus, is going to be drawing coverage away from Galladay. You're not going to be able to double up Kenny G as easy because you're also going to have to respect the middle of the field just as much as you are the outside. So the one biggest impact that he's going to have for us in the receiving aspect, in terms of scheme and practicality and usage, more so than traits, is his ability to seam bust, attack the middle of the defense, and force people to cover and respect the tight end position. That's going to be an incredibly big time bonus for our offense that I think a lot of people are really underrating. And that's why I wanted him so badly at 8 leading up to the draft. Even though tight end isn't necessarily the monetary value pick, in terms of practical use, game changer. So really big fan of what he's going to be able to do for us in terms of seam busting, attacking the middle of the field, and not necessarily so much spreading the defense out because he's not going to be lined up at wide receiver, but in terms of drawing balance to the defense and saying, okay, we have Kenny Galladay we have to worry about outside, we have TJ Hockenson we have to worry about inside, we have to account for Kerryon Johnson in the flats, we have to account for Marvin Jones as a tertiary option. You have to cover a lot more of the field if you're running a zone D, or worry about a lot more options if you're running a man D. So big time asset for the Lions in that regard. Next aspect of the game I'm going to talk about that he's going to affect is the pass blocking. Not really a highlight thing. However, this is what really separated him to me between him and Noah Fant in my rankings at tight end. A lot of people talk, okay, yeah, Fant's the more athletic tight end. Fant does decent as a run blocker also. We'll get into that more in a minute. Fant has the size, speed, length, whatever combination that TJ does, better athlete, blah, blah, blah. He also can affect the game both in the 20s and in the red zone. But the one big difference between TJ Hockenson and Noah Fant is in pass protection. When you're calling a pass play, Noah Fant, you're sending him on a route every single play because he's not developed as a pass protector. He had a couple of big issues last year where he got beat by edge players and pass protecting. TJ Hockenson doesn't have that issue. And that was what really separated him to me and made him my clear tight end 1 and a top 5 player on my board versus a Noah Fant at tight end 2 and a top 10 to 15 guy. That's not, again, saying Noah Fant isn't a bad player. He's a fantastic player, one of the best picks in the draft today, in my opinion. But that's what really separates Hockenson at 8 from Fant at 20. And why Denver traded out from 10 to get Fant and we stuck at 8 to take TJ is the pass protection is going to be huge for Matthew Stafford. Now, of course, again, that's not saying our line is bad or anything like that. You still have to have faith in Decker and Wagner, but the more protection you can get, the more help for them you can get, both with him and Jesse James, who's also a pretty decent, reliable pass protector. A very underrated aspect of the tight end position that we're going to notice day one. Somebody who's going to be able to contribute against these edge players in pass pro and be able to give Matthew Stafford a little bit more time to get the football out, find his guy, make better, more accurate throws, both down the field and reads in the shorter half. So that's the other big reason why I'm really, really high on Hockenson compared to Fant is the pass protection difference is so great on that specific dimension of the tight end position. Next thing I'm going to talk about is the run blocking. Again, not to say that Fant isn't a bad run blocker. He was also a top 5 or so-ish run blocker in the class, developed in that aspect of his game. But TJ Hockenson is elite in that area. Top 3 pass blocker compared to top 5 to 10. Or run blocker, sorry. So very, very developed aspect of his game from day one. Really going to be able to come in, make some pancake blocks, and it's like you guys saw what Frank Ragnow did for us last year in the run game, and that side of the last year's pick. Not to say that Hockenson is as good of a run blocker as Ragnow. Of course, Ragnow's a guard. But relative to their positions, I think there's an argument to be made that TJ Hockenson is probably one of the best run blockers in the class. Now, of course, you're not going to say, oh, yeah, he's as good of a run blocker as Chris Lindstrom is a guard, because Chris Lindstrom's a guard. But in terms of run blocking grade, tight end to tight end, he's one of the best run blockers in the class. Very, very solid pick there to be able to open up holes in the run game. Him and especially Taylor Decker and Rick Wagner, not really the best run blockers. Great pass protectors, both top 10 or so on their sides. Arguably top 5 pass protectors on their sides. Getting TJ to open up some run lanes to the outside and most importantly seal those edges. Going to be a very, very nice asset to have for Kerryon Johnson. I'm sure Kerryon's watching tonight. He's throwing a house party right now, seeing TJ Hockenson as the pick to Detroit. He has to be absolutely thrilled that he's going to be having some really easy lanes to run through next year. Going to be kept free. Going to have a lot more easier decisions to make. He's going to be able to bounce things outside if the inside blocking isn't necessarily there. So, just something else to keep in mind, the tight end position is very multi-dimensional. And while, yes, everyone's going to talk about, oh, yeah, TJ Hockenson, red zone threat, can catch touchdown passes, can get you a nice 3rd and 3 type play, whatever. You're getting more than that with TJ Hockenson, and that's what makes him special. And going back, I already talked a little bit about this when I brought up the hands. One thing that really separates Hockenson from Eric Ebron and Brandon Pettigrew, former Lions tight ends, is the blocking. Eric Ebron subbed out on blocking downs, on run plays. Ineffective at best in pass protection. Every single time you are sending him out on a route. you weren't going to be able to get effective pass blocking from him. Granted, that's not to say he's not a bad receiver. When he caught the ball, he was a great receiver. We saw that with Indianapolis, Pro Bowl type guy. But blocking wise, I don't think anyone is arguing that TJ Hockenson is a better blocker than Eric Ebron. Yeah, from day one, I'm taking TJ Hawkinson's blocking today over Eric Ebron's blocking today. That's 5-6 years after Ebron's rookie year. So, yeah, well, immediately comes in one of the better blockers in the class, one of the better blockers, I could argue, possibly in the league, at least in terms of upside, and that aspect of his game, both run and pass. So, big aspect of TJ Hawkinson's game that I really, really want to push as much as I can, because that's going to be where his biggest differences are going to be made. Something to keep in your thoughts there as well. Going back to the receiving aspect of the game, I'm going to keep talking up the blocking as much as I can, as often as I can. But also, it is important to go back to the receiving aspect as well, another half of the tight end position. And another thing, I already talked about his hands, separation and route running. He's, again, not Noah Fant. This is the area that Noah Fant has the edge on him, is the route running and the separation. But as we see here, with this play, actually pretty perfect timing, TJ Hockenson able to create some separation here. In fact, about 5 yards of separation on this particular play, with his route running and usage with both the hands and the legs. For those of you guys who've been tuning into the wide receiver videos, you've heard me talk about that a lot this offseason so far. Want to be able to see you separate with the hands, the arms, using release moves and getting off the line quick, being able to evade press coverage, especially if he's going to be playing online, being able to extend the arms, create that extra separation with the hands, hand fight for position, things of that nature. Very quality player in that area, but also able to separate with the legs and the feet. With the route running, with the speed and agility and athleticism, again, not Noah Fant, flashy, incredibly insane athleticism, but he's an elite athlete still. That's going to be another area you're going to be able to see him contribute. Luke Wilson, Levine Toilolo, average, below average athletes. Hockenson, a little bit more ability to stretch the field. Now, that's not to say he's going to go down the field and 50-yard touchdown passes, but he has the ability to run after the catch. He has the ability to separate. He has the ability to make plays and things of that nature. And that's another pretty good example of it. Just enough separation to be able to get open. Also, going back to the schematic point here, again, we already talked briefly about this with the ability to impact both the run, the pass, etc. But also going to see him be a factor in crap, I was about to say something. Oh, in terms of, oh my gosh, I keep losing my mind here. Both running, pass protecting. I'm trying to cover so much stuff here. I'm kind of going nuts. Oh, yeah, route concepts. That's what it was. I was going to talk about route concept, going off the separation point. What you're going to be able to do with him, he's not, again, Noah Fant route runner, but you're going to be able to vary your route concepts a little bit. He's not just going to be a seam buster. He's going to be able to come across underneath. He's going to be able to attack the seams, of course. He's going to be able to attack the flats. He's going to be able to run your typical tight end post routes, your seam route. He's going to be able to run your drags. He's going to be able to stay in as a pass blocker, as a run blocker. So not only are you going to be able to vary him up in terms of run pass sets, you're also going to be able to vary him up in terms of pass receiving route concepts, which is going to be really fun to see next year. So he provides that aspect as well, something that Luke Wilson and Levine Toilolo couldn't do for us last year. A lot of really things to like about that aspect of his receiving abilities as well. And another thing too is just the base breakdown in sets and formations. You're going to be able to run your two tight end sets with him and Jesse James. You're going to be able to run him out of ace sets especially. Love ace sets because they're so unpredictable. And you can do a lot of different things out of your ace sets. You can run the ball, you can run inside out with your stretches, your inside zones, your inside powers. You can run down the field attacks with verts. You can run just meshing seam concepts. All kinds of possibilities out of your ace sets. And Hockenson is going to be a big part of those ace sets next year that really allow us to play a multi-dimensional offense. So, additionally, matchups are going to be a huge selling point to the Matt Patricia regime. We've already talked a lot about that the last few months and even last year. One thing that's going to be a really big selling point to if this Matt Patricia regime is able to work like I think it will, and hopefully you guys do as well, is the ability to create and win matchup variances. He can be a cornerback on one play, he can be a linebacker on the next play, he can be a safety on the next play, and the next play you're putting him on a defensive end to pass block. The ability to win against any defensive player, whether you man him up, you zone him up, linebacker, corner, safety. Whoever you put against him, he has the ability to win a different way every single play. And with Ebron, we saw at times he struggled against corners. He wasn't willing to be physical enough to be able to outcatch the corners. So he had the athleticism to match up with them, yes. He wasn't necessarily physical enough at the catch point. Hockenson is. Same thing with the safeties. Safety is a little bit more physical and gritty than the corners, so you got to be able to match up with that. Also, a little bit more athleticism. Hockenson has the body control, the length, and the contested catch ability to be able to win those 50-50s with the safeties. Most importantly, the body control, the positioning, the ball tracking skills that he brings to the table from day one, in that area as well. Just something to can match up with the safeties very well. Linebackers, of course, you have the speed. The speed and the size, of course, with the smaller linebackers, the Devin Bushes of the world. He's going to be able to. He's 6'5", so you're going to have a little bit more of a struggle in that regard. So he's going to be able to win matchup battles against linebackers. And then defensive linemen, he's going to be able to block defensive linemen. And if they try and put a defensive lineman in on him in the flat, you're not going to be able. Maybe Brian Burns and your like elite top of the line athletes will be able to play to that. But most of those guys aren't really technically sound in coverage, so you're not really going to be able to see them contest the catches. They're more going to be just there to try and deter. Whereas with Hockenson, he's going to be a legitimate receiving threat. So he has the ability to match up against all levels of the defense, from front to back, and attack all levels of the defense. You try and play him short, send him over the top with the seam route. You want to try and play him deep with a cover 3 type of look, bam, just attack underneath, run your slants, run your drags, run your whatevers. Maybe that's the time where you want to put him in pass pro. Things of that nature. Maybe you're playing an aggressive team, a team like San Francisco. I think it's more of one of those aggressive defenses. You're playing against a Nick Bosa. Boom. Maybe you want to put him on Bosa and help double team with Wagner or Decker. There's so many things that he's going to be able to add in terms of versatility, dynamic aspect to the offense, and overall, the one thing I want to also bring up too is everyone's talking about the defensive playmaker that we need, blah, blah, blah. Personally, the offense in Detroit right now is going into 8, I should say, was in a lot worse shape than the defense. The defensive front, you have Trey Flowers, you have Deshaun Hand, you have Snacks Harrison, you have Flowers, Snacks, Hand, Deshaun. I think I said all those guys. On the defensive line, you have your 4 defensive linemen. You have at the defensive linebacker position, Jared Davis and Christian Jones. Now, yes, Christian Jones can be upgraded, but as much as I hated on him early in the season last year, he's one of our worst players. Once we traded for Snacks, he did improve. As well as with the increased time in the scheme, he showed that increased understanding of the scheme as time went along. And really developed the knowledge of the scheme I think that Matt P was really looking for. Whereas a linebacker, you add a guy like Devin Bush, as much as I love him, as great as a player as he is, you still have to teach him a much more different scheme than he learned at Michigan. And that's going to take time. That's going to take time to develop. He's going to have different reads, different assignments, different coverage areas, different zones, and especially Devin Bush played a lot of contain, responsible for running backs live at Michigan, more responsible for tight ends here in Detroit. So kind of different in that regard. And as much as I would have loved Devin Bush here, I think Hockenson kind of provides a different aspect there. I do like Bush a lot more than White for us. We'll throw that out. But I do think that Hockenson is the better fit. So yes, they have that aspect as well. And then defensive backs, we saw what happened with the corners. The first corner to go off the board today went 30th. And I don't know how many of you guys had DeAndre Baker as your first corner. Personally, I had him number 2 behind Amani. That was a pretty hot take because Amani's the most scheme versatile. And I had Baker number 2. Most people had either Gritty or Byron number 1. Both of those guys are still on the board going into day 2. Not exactly worth the 8th overall pick. And I think we're going to see them probably go earlier on in day 2. But all these corners outside of Amani, who had no elite traits, had a severe, glaring, kryptonic weakness. With Grady, it was the physicality and the willingness to tackle. With Byron Murphy, it was the size, speed. 5'9" kid running 4.55 is not ideal. And of course, they have more experience in the zone aspects of the coverage position as well. And then with Baker, it was the athleticism. A lot of people, particularly Kent LaPlatte, Math Bomb talked a lot about how he didn't think of Baker as a first-round guy because the athleticism wasn't there. He had a 4.51 RAS score. So that's something that was a knock on him. And then Amani, as I just mentioned, no real elite traits. He's really well balanced and kind of a what's the word? Scheme versatile, I guess, is probably the best way I'm going to be able to phrase this. The least reliant on a scheme to be a fit. But on the other hand, he's not as good in zone as Byron. Can't hit as well as Byron. Probably not as good in man as a Greedy Williams at full effort. Also, in terms of Baker, probably not really as good in terms of the cover 2 type of short zone. So those guys are all specialists, Amani more balanced. And I think that kind of hurt him a little bit in terms of team grades. Because a lot of these teams are looking for a specific fit at corner, and Amani is, yeah, he can do all these different things. Is that really what we want to take in the first round? Is someone who's balanced? At corner, not necessarily. So, also really deep corner draft as well. A lot of chances to add a guy on day 2 tomorrow. And day 2 was always going to be the sweet spot for a corner. Whether we went with Ed Oliver, whether we went with Josh Allen if he fell to 8, whoever we went with, corner was always going to be more of a value in the second round, regardless. So that's something to keep in mind in terms of that position. And then safeties, there wasn't really a safety worth taking at 8. I love Nasir Adderley. I think he's a great fit for us if we do decide to go with the safety 3 in round 2 tomorrow. But I do think he's probably going to end up elsewhere. I really love Tracy Walker. He's a great fit for us and what we want to do. I do think Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn believe in him greatly to step up and replace Glover. And of course we have Adams and Wilson. Tavon Wilson is our safety 3 and 4. So I don't really think of safety as that big of a need, and especially 8, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to reach there. So, and then on 2, just in general, I mean, you think about our defense last year, we were top, I want to say 10 defense with snacks. Number 2 run defense, and I think we were top 15 in pass D. Now, of course, we have issues at corner, but they signed Justin Coleman, they signed Rashad Melvin, and again, as I just mentioned, second round is a really, really good spot for a corner. If we do decide that we still need a corner too. And of course, you have the possibility of a Tease Tabor development. So, something to keep in mind there. I'm not really the biggest fan of Tease, but it's personally possible that the Lions could be interior. Something to keep in mind there as well is that the really one big hole that we have left on the defensive side is the corner, and we could easily go there tomorrow. Meanwhile, on the flip side, our offense last year was trash. Bottom 10 rush offense, bottom 10 pass offense. And the only thing that we did was lose Golden Tate at the halfway point and lost Luke Wilson, lost Levine Toilolo, lost TJ Lane, and signed Ode Ibushi and CJ Anderson. Ode Ibushi, CJ Anderson, and Danny Amendola. Danny Amendola, cool, fine, great. He'll add a little bit to the pass offense out of the slot. He's a nice weapon. He's not going to make up for the value the Golden Tate brought 2 years ago. Whereas with TJ Hockenson, he's going to improve both of those into possibly top 10, hopefully, maybe top 15 units along with Daryl Bevel's addition over Jim Bob. So, really, the offensive side of the ball is what was really going to hurt us next year if we didn't address it early. This does just that. It addresses not only the passing game, but the running game, both early with a very, very great player. So, in terms of ceiling floor, probably the highest floor in the draft out of anybody, simply because Bosa has the durability concerns. You could argue Quinn Williams. Personally, I have Hockenson a little bit higher. Josh Allen has run support concerns at times. Gap integrity was a bit inconsistent in run defense, so he still has some things to work on. Scheme variance and change as well on the defensive side. So he has a couple of things. I personally like TJ Hockenson a little bit better in terms of floor. And he also has a very high ceiling. Again, not as high as the Bosa's if he stays healthy, the Quinnings, a defensive tackle in terms of playmaking on that side of the football. And not necessarily as high in Ed Oliver, of course. But with Ed Oliver, maybe you don't view him as a 3-down player. He was more of a run-defending nose tackle at Houston. A lot of projection goes into translating him to 3-5. So he's an elite athlete. Is that athleticism going to be able to translate into pass rushing technique at the next level? Is that going to be able to translate into 3-tech run defending in the NFL? A lot more projection goes into that than with TJ. So a lot lower floor, a lot higher ceiling for Ed. And I think that's kind of the consensus with TJ, is very high floor, but also, on the other hand, you are also getting a very high ceiling type of guy. You're getting someone who can be a Zach Ertz, Rob Gronkowski, Travis Kelce, Hunter Henry type of guy. He's very similar to a Hunter Henry in a lot of ways. Only the difference is Hunter Henry has the durability issues. Now, of course, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, he's going to be Gronk. He very easily could be. Gronk also had injury issues. So, but yeah, and that's kind of the thing with these top tight ends too, is durability concerns. I don't really see TJ Hockenson having that. He was relatively low used at Iowa, and at the same time, he was still productive in the time that he played. So, I don't think he's necessarily got a lot of wear and tear on him as people like Gronk and Co did coming out. a lot more room to grow and develop too, which is really, really nice. I think that is a really good combination of floor and ceiling, and he has the ability to continue progressing over the course of his career and another one, George Kittle, of course, being from Iowa. That's just a bit too obvious for my taste. But yeah, I really think that he can be a Hunter Henry, if healthy, type of guy. And that's worth the 8th overall pick to me, especially considering our current state of our offense, our current state of the needs, and the current shape of the roster and what we're trying to build in Detroit. So, with that being said, again, just summarizing this, great hands, great routes in the receiving aspect, great pass blocker in terms of the passing dynamic, and also a very good run blocker as well. A lot of things to really look forward to in Detroit next year. Super excited. Really looking forward to seeing him in Honolulu Blue next year. It's going to be a blast. Third down should improve, red zone should improve, ability to running back passing should improve. Tight end, of course, is obviously going to improve with him and James. Versatility and unpredictability with the offense is going to improve. The whole offense is going to have a totally new dynamic with this pick. It's super exciting to see what he's going to be able to do. And even more so in 2020. Uh, obviously, focusing on 2019, he might not have the biggest impact 2019 with Jesse James being a little bit more pro-ready and developed and experienced. 2020, he's going to have a jump. So, that's going to be really fun. Could have a carry-on type of year. Maybe we think he gets underused a little bit, when in reality they're kind of just saving him for that 2020 burst. I really think that that's going to be really fun to see him grow over the course of the next 2-3 seasons and beyond. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this, learned a thing or two. We will be doing some film breakdowns on some of the other first round picks over the next couple of weeks and analyzing their fits with certain teams. I've already done a couple on Devin Bush, so I might not do another one on him with Pittsburgh, but we'll see. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this, learned a thing or two. Hopefully this kind of taught some of you guys who are anti tight end, anti Hockenson, whatever that might be, into liking him a little bit more, subscribing to the belief that he will be a big impact player for us next year. I personally think he is. But yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you want to see our film breakdown again, where we go down the positives and negatives a little bit more in depth instead of just showing highlights, and I break down the actual tape in the film for you guys, I will post that as well. But for now, hopefully you guys are excited about this. There's a lot to look forward to, both tomorrow and in the future. And yeah, for now, hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Hope you guys had a great day wanting to draft for your favorite team. And hopefully you guys continue to have a rest of your great day too and going into day 3. But with that being said, for now, peace out.